I would be teaching how to use Docker for your development, how easy Docker can make your development process. If you are hiring a new person, then how is it is easy, because these days, we are working from remote.
Right.
So to install exactly the same as the companies, it
Mm-hmm.
is quite different. It is quite difficult. So it will be easy in this system. So yeah, I will be teaching about that.
Okay, that sounds actually pretty great. So one of the things
Yeah.
that I always ask all of our webinar speakers is that why did you choose Ruby for your professional career?
Yeah, it was quite a luck mostly. I
Mm-hmm.
am by study, I am an electrical engineer, but it was like traditional. My family is electrical engineer, so I studied electrical engineering, but my own interest was in computer sciences. So whatever I learned by myself. So I was after my graduation, I did 1 year in robotics, and then 2 years in research in Italy in artificial intelligence, computer vision. And during that time, I was trying to create my own IoT servers. So that's why I got interested in web development. But my whole process was to how to learn simple web development.
Mm-hmm.
So I got lucky that there was a site that was teaching Ruby on Rails development, and I was in the starting few people. So we had to use Skype to contact with the founder. I would discuss my issues and I would give him reviews. So during that sessions, I got more interested in Ruby. So I learned Ruby for myself
Mm-hmm.
to create IoT servers. I came to Pakistan to go to South Korea for my master's, but I got an accident and fell from the stairs. So my knee was fractured and I was on bed rest for 3 months. So my opportunity got lost, but when I was in bed, I got an opportunity in Pakistan for working remotely until I am in the bed for Ruby on Rails. So since then, I've been doing development for Ruby on Rails. It's around 5 to 6 years now.
Right, right. Well, that's actually a very inspiring story. One key takeaway from your story
Yeah.
that I personally feel is that, you don't necessarily need to have, a software engineering background in order to learn Ruby. Like, you were doing electrical engineering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I think that it's all in your mind that you think that if you are a mechanical engineer, then yeah, it's all your mind. If you have interest in computer science, then you can do it. Okay, I didn't had the teachers even in my bachelor's, but who could teach me better computer sciences. Like I studied data structures and OOP by myself. Our teachers were not so good in that
Mhm.
because it was electrical engineering. But
Yeah.
yeah, it depends on your interest. If you have interest, then you can do it.
For sure. So we don't want to keep our viewers waiting. So we will start off with, the tutorial that you prepared for our audience. So that's great. One thing I wanted to mention for our audience is that we will be taking questions during the live stream. So feel free to ask any kind of question, whatever it is, while the tutorial is going on, and I will be sharing them with Salman, and he'll be answering them side by side, because we don't want to have any issues like, doing it in the end of the queue, like doing it in the end of the session, because it does get a bit problematic. So there's that. Over to you, Salman.
Thank you. I think most of you people have heard about Docker, but the Docker we think is that for the for servers. Like if we want to have a server with minimal configuration, we don't have to handle everything, then we should use Docker. But no, Docker can be used for local development as well. And this is the good thing about Docker. So Docker is using hyper virtualization to so they use Linux in the virtual machine, whether it is Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. So, but the hyper visualization is not like the whole uh, system is installed. No, but the images are created by each person, by each company. Like even Ruby has its own image in Docker Hub. If you see, there is a Ruby image updated 12 hours ago. So everything is updated quite uh, early here, like Node.js. Oh, sorry, I think it's Node. Yeah. So it was also updated 12 hours ago. So what we do is we create uh, different images, and by creating these images, we create a container of a machine, okay, and we program in that machine. So I've been seeing many problems like even now when it's in COVID situation, what is the problem that we are getting new hiring in the company, and each hiring has its own computer, or the company has provided it, but you have to install many dependencies like the like latest Ruby is Ruby 3, but mostly the companies are using Ruby 2. So you have to install Ruby 2, and then there's a specific version of Postgres, and you have to set configuration of each, and then you can work, and it goes on a lot of days and lot of confusion. Some systems can support it, especially Windows. Ruby on Rails development is being hard. But what Docker can do is Docker can create a virtual machine, like you know about VirtualBox or something, but it is quite easy to be attached with your local machine, so that if you have a Visual Studio Code in local machine, browser in local machine, you can have access using the Docker. So I will be teaching you how to create a new Rails project while uh, using Docker. So, and you will see how fast and how easy it is to use Docker. So let me share it aside. Okay, if you search for Docker, not Docker Hub, uh, Docker. So we have a Docker desktop. As I'm using Intel, I'm using Mac, so it is showing the Docker desktop for both Mac, and now Docker also supports M1 latest machines of Apple. And also it is available for Windows and Linux as well. Okay, so you when you install the Docker, you can, like I have installed Docker. It is now running here. You can see in the above pane, it is running, starting. So let's assume that I am a new to a company, and company has provided me this repo. Okay, I think the repo link has also been shared, which we will be working on today. So first thing is I have to clone the company code. So I go to the terminal, I run c git clone, and I'm going to clone in my working repo. So after cloning, I have gone to that folder. So yeah, I can open the code in Visual Studio Code. So yeah, this is the code I have in API. That is, don't worry, we will create soon these repo. So let's assume that company has this repo and you want to install it. So we have to check the Ruby variant and the bundler variant. and then which variant of we are using Postgres, MySQL, or MongoDB. So we have to install all this. But what I did, I have added a Docker Compose file. In the Docker Compose, uh, roughly I have introduced that it is using Postgres and it is using an API. API is this one, the Docker file, which is Ruby 2.7.3. So I have explained everything in the perspective that how the company is running. So if I want to create this in my local, I have to install Postgres, I have to install Ruby of 2.7.3, and I have to install all the dependency, but not here. I cloned this. It has a Docker compose file. So what will I do? I will run a command Docker compose up dash d double dash build. So Docker compose up means run this container, create the container based on this file instructions and this file instructions. Okay. And dash D means after you have run it, give the control back to me, not keep opening that control in the current terminal. And build means if we have not installed those images, like if I don't have Ruby 2.7.3 image, but the Docker Hub has that image. Also, I have not installed Postgres and I have not mentioned the version of Postgres. That means the latest version. So it will install itself and then install in that virtual container and run Docker Compose up. It would download. It will take a little bit because it will download all that images from Docker Hub and install in my local Docker environment. And then it will run it, and we don't have to set up everything. It will be running out of the box. Okay. So any question until now? Any confusion about? Then you can ask. Okay. I will also teach how to create that image, what we settings we need to do, how we need to do those settings. Yes, Nitin Chauhan has a question. How will we get this YAML file? You have to create this YAML file. Uh, if you search for Docker Compose, even Docker Compose file for Rails development, you can find it on Google. And you have to create, like, it is not a specific file, a specific configuration. Every project has its own configuration. Some projects are using Postgres, some projects are even using Redis for Sidekick or chat, and some projects are using Elasticsearch. So we will add those services here as well. Okay, so it's a simple Docker Compose file, but sometimes it goes like many lines, around 1,000 lines. But it is one-time setting. If you do that setting, then after that, if you are going for again and again, if your whole computer is lost, you can reinstall the operating system, and then you can start working again by just downloading that specific images. So you can see here that it has installed all the required images, and now it's running the bundle install of all the gem file, all the gems we have in the gem file. So I think Nitin question has been answered. It depends on different projects. Okay. So also Docker Compose file is not restricted to just the Rails development. because we are in RubyConf and we are talking about Ruby and Rails. That's why here, but it can run for Python, Java, JavaScript, everything. If you can go to dockerhub.com, you can see search for any image, and it is official images. These are all official images. Okay, you see Mongo Express as well. Like if you are working in Node.js, then Mongo with the Express also we have an image for that. So for Ruby, we depend on the official version of Ruby, and always official version comes with hub.docker.com/_. If there is an /_ in the link, that means it's an official image, and you can see it is written that it is Docker official image. So better to use the Docker official images because it's like Git. Docker Hub is like Git, that every person can add its own Docker files. What we need to create an image, just a Docker file. Okay, so yeah, official image for now is better. For the deployment on server, that is the job of DevOps. So yeah, we can discuss about that in some other lecture. So I think bundle install, yeah, it is complete. So now I want to see the logs. When we do Rails S, our Docker Compose up has also done Rails S. So if I want to see the logs, then it will be logs of API. Okay, so you see it is running. Okay, so what can I do? I can go to local host port 3000. And yeah, I have not done the database creation and migration. So what I have to do is I have to run Docker. Mohsin Jamshed has a question. What services are supposed to be mentioned in Docker compose.yaml, and how can we run the dependency in custom order? Yeah, you can run any merge services. You have to be added to the dependencies. I will explain when we will be creating from the ground up. But we can add as much services as we can, and for uh, for the dependencies, you see, I will also explain that when I'm creating it. So wait for a second. So to call the Rails DB, if we want to create the Rails DB, we have to run. This is important line. We have to add Docker Compose run API. API is the name of our project in Docker, and then we can do simple Rails DB create, and it will go to a container, and then it will run Rails DB create, and we have created a DB. You see, created database API development, okay, and API test. So if I rerun this, then it should work. Yeah, you are on Rails. So if I want to close that machine and destroy any data, I can do Docker compose down. If I do Docker compose down, then it will shut down that container. It won't destroy that container. If you want to destroy that container, like I want to do, because I don't want to develop more in this. I want to create a new Rails project from the start. So I would do Docker compose down -v. Okay. So the reason to clone this project and show you was that it is quite easy if any new project is created. Even if your system, if your Mac OS doesn't have Ruby installed or Postgres installed, we can use that. So for now, uh, Yeah, it is removed. Every Docker compose has been removed, and you can see in dashboard when a container is running, it is shown in this container view. That Postgres we have downloaded Redis. Okay, so what I am going to do, I am going to create a new project. I would say RubyConf project. Okay, and I will do, I will cd into that folder. Now I want to open that to new code Ruby. So if you want to study this detail, I have a blog. I think this article has also been, the link to this article has also been shared by RubyConf. So here I am showing how to create a Rails API with Vue.js frontend in Docker for development. But for now, if you want to have this in detail, you can study it here. What I am, this is also the repo I am talking about. It has two commits. One commit was the initial before creating a Rails project, what files we need to create a new Rails project. Even if you don't have anything installed in your system, you create these files and then you are good to go. So for now, I open it. I think I have opened it. No, I will open it. Yeah, I have opened it. So, what? First of all, I need a Docker compose dot YAML file in the folder. Okay, and Docker compose dot YAML file doesn't mean that it is dependent on one thing. Like we are here talking about only Rails. If you are using Vue.js front end in some front end framework, and if you are using React in some other front end, then you can create a different folders, and this one Docker compose.yaml file can work in all the above folders like a mono repo. Okay, mono repo, we can put every code in one repo in GitHub. So yeah, first of all, we have to tell the version of the file, which type of variant coding. Like if we are using, yes, encrypted Malik is saying, hi, is raise create DB a command that was executed inside a container? Yes, everything is now in the container of API we created. Okay, Postgres is in the same container, Ruby is in the same container. So everything is in the container. Okay, but what we do here is that if you want to go to the Postgres, I will show it with using Postico, that how to connect with that DB which is created in the Ruby container. So yeah, stay with here. When I will create, I will show everything. Okay, like this, I am just copy pasting everything. I can't write everything for now. So this is a sample file. What I am trying to create is an Rails API project with Postgres using. Okay. So here first I introduce the version number. There was another question by someone. Zia Kamar, can you please differentiate between Docker and Docker Compose and where each can be used? So Docker is the main thing. Like Docker is for running a container. If you want to run Ubuntu container, you have to do everything. Okay, so if you want to merge Postgres container with Ruby container, you have to do manually. But Docker Compose helps us with this file that we can create a container merging the both containers of Postgres and Ruby and furthermore. Okay, so actually we are using Docker, but Docker Compose is an easy way, and we don't have to repeat everything. If you will want to use just the Docker, we have to go to the terminal, we have to write that we want to create a container of Ubuntu, and we want to run bin/sh to run the shell command, and it is only active until we are interactive, or we have to run it in the background and we have to close it. So when we are creating a project, then Docker Compose comes in, because we have to write everything here and then it will work. So I want to use a DB. So I named the service DB with image Postgres. Okay. So if I want to go to Docker Hub and I write it here Postgres. Okay. So it is also an official image of Postgres. And the latest is 13.3. If you want to use old Postgres like 12.7, you write it here like colon 12.7, and it will install Postgres 12.7. But because it's a new project, I don't want to have any dependency, so we can do that. Then this is the attachment of our local machine with the Docker container, like where to put that Docker data. Like if I want to show where lib Postgres SQL data, this is the normally point in that container of Postgres where this data is coming. I want it to be accessible to me in my local machine. So I am saying that it can be accessible at DB. Okay. So I can expose that DB to my local machine so that I can access that data. Then it is a ports, like where I want to put that port. This is the port of the normal Postgres container, and this is our local machine. If our local machine is running, already have a Postgres container, Postgres running, so this 5432 port will be busy, so I can do 5433 as well. But for now, 5432, because I don't have any Postgres instance running in my local machine. Okay. And then environment variable where I have tell that Postgres host auth method is trust. In that way, I don't have to enter password because it's a local machine. I don't want to enter username and password. Username is necessary, but password is not. So if we remove that, we have to add environment variable, the Postgres password to connect to that DB. Then there is an API. API, I will be saying that this is my Rails project. Okay. So I am saying that build whatever /API has. Okay. Build method, what it would do. Let me see if I have any other question. No. So build is what I am saying that I am creating a new folder API which will have our Rails code. So build whatever it is in the Rails API. So if I say build, then it means there will be a Docker file inside the API folder. Okay. So that means we have to create here in API Docker file. Okay. So that means build means that we don't have any specific service that we can call from the Docker Hub. That means we have some customized container. So for that customized container, we have to use Dockerfile. Okay. So after that, we want to tell with the command that what should we run once the container is up. So I want to remove the server PIDs for Puma. And then I want to start foreman start profile. I have a profile and I will start that. Yeah, you see, there is an environment here. Oh, sorry, the question is from Encrypted Malik. For credentials, how can we add or use .env in YAML? Okay, so there is an environment, and then there is an env file underscore file. Okay, here you can tell the path in where you have .env environment. Okay, and in that file you can add a .env file where you can add your secrets. Okay, so I will be using Foreman because some mostly when I use Sidekick, and for Sidekick we have to run the workers as well. So Foreman is quite easy to run the main server and the workers in one go. Okay, otherwise I have to run Rails S in the server and then run Rails S in each worker, or I have to go to the Sidekick for that resolution for the development. So it is easy to use Foreman. So what I would say that start the Foreman according to the proc file, and it will start our server after build is complete. Okay. And right now I in environment variable, I am using the port, which port I will be using in the Docker environment, not in our local machine. And then what volumes I want to use. I want to use dot slash API means in current folder, that API folder will be used in for our local machine, and slash API will be used for the Docker container. Okay. And Rails log, which I showed in the terminal, the logs we can see these logs will be the Rails log and can be accessed in our local machine. And then the ports. Ports are which port, as I have mentioned 3000 here and 3000 in our local machine. Again, I don't have any Rails instance running in our local machine, so my 3000 is free. Otherwise, you can change it to 3001. So even if the Rails is pointing to 3000, it is in the container machine, our local machine, it will be 3000. Also, there was a question from Mohsin Jamshed that how to run the dependencies. Okay, so you see when we build it, here is the depends on. Depends on means that it needs to run DB before running this API. So this will not be called until this DB service has been built and running. Okay, so that's why in depends on I have run in DB. If you want to have a Redis in your Rails project, and definitely Redis has to be run before the Rails project starts running, can run, you can add a new service about Redis here, and then depends on also includes the Redis. Okay, so here I am exposing those volumes DB and Rails log. So this is our Docker compose.yaml. So let's jump back to our code in the commit one. And now the main second file which we need is the Docker file. Okay. As I told you that if you want to create a custom container, you have to add Docker file. So Docker Compose will run that file, will build that file according to our needs. Okay. So Ruby 2.7.3, again the colon and the variant, because I need to be specific about Ruby. Then as this Ruby comes in with Ubuntu pre-installed, so I can run app-get update, and app-get install Postgres SQL client also has to be running on the local container, so that it can access that DB service. Okay, and here we are creating Rails API. The latest Ruby variants do not allow JS to be pre-installed. So if you don't want to run the Rails API, you want to run the whole with front end with the ERB stuff, then you can add Node.js install as well. Okay. So I am using just Postgres and API, so I don't need the Node.js in my container. Okay. And then I will create an slash API because in Docker compose.yaml, I have said that everything of my controller is in slash API. So I will be creating an API folder in that container, and I will say that this is my work directory. Okay. In that Ubuntu container in the Docker. Then I will copy gem file from my API to the Docker slash API because it is our work folder slash gem file. Similarly, I will copy log file, and then I will create a log file, and I will create a development.log file because it is necessary that there should be a development.log file. Otherwise, it is not created when the server is running. Okay, it has to be created before. Then, now the Docker container has gem file and gemfile.log, and it is a Ruby pre-installed. Then we can just install bundler and we can run bundle install. When the bundle is installed, then whatever I have in this API folder, I will copy that to slash API so that every code that is in here should also be there. Okay, and then I run a four-man gem install that is like a bundler, but bundler is used for bundling the gems commands. Okay, so this is the second important file. So gem file should also be created. I am creating gem file. So source is our rubygems.org. So I can go a new tab, rubygems.org. Here I will say Rails, and so I copy this and I paste this. Okay. So I just have to add these two lines. Okay. The remaining lines will be easy, and you will see about that in a few seconds. Also, as in Docker file, I have mentioned that there is a gemfile.log. Uh, but we have not run bundle install yet. So for now, it is not a problem to have an empty gem file, and there should be an empty gem file .log in the folder. Okay, so these three files are required, and lastly, we need to have a proc file. Okay, so I will say proc file that is used by foreman. Okay, here I would say that uh, bundle install raise s dash b means port, and when you are exporting a port, you can't do 127.0.0.1 or localhost. You have to say 0.0.0.1 because container has to push that, has to attach that port to another. So if we are using localhost, that attachment won't occur. Okay, that's why it is 0.0.0.0, and the port slash p is the port that is come from the environment variable that I have explained in the Docker Compose, which is port 3000. Okay, this will be called in the proc file, and logger will be the log of development logs. Okay, and if I want to add further, I would add the worker below of Rails so that gem file gets updated like a new Rails project, and everything, every other. Okay, the thing is, Mohsin Jamshed, the thing is copy gem file. There is a gem file in our folder which has right now only two lines, that our source is rubygems.org and we want to have Rails gem installed in our project. Okay, and the gem file.log. That two files need to be copied to the container local system, container system file system. Okay, and our work directory file system is /API. Okay, so each gem file is copied to /API separately, so that when we run the bundle install, we will run the bundle install on these gem file and gem file.log. Okay, so that's why we copy before everything. We just copy and run the bundle install. If we have the gem file here, if we don't write these lines, then it will not be installed, because there will not be any gem file in the container file system. Okay, so now I want to initialize the Rails project. Like, we do Rails new. Okay, but here everything, when we are using about Docker Compose, we have to, and if you want to have some knowledge about that, I have explained everything here. So if you want to run, and you see, this is an old article, but right now Docker dash compose is the old way of doing that. Docker space compose is the latest version, and now Docker CLI supports Docker space compose. Okay, so in the start we have to run Docker space compose run, and then API, because we are saying that an API in our services in Docker compose.yaml, we are saying that API. So run everything in the API. And what is we are going to need it is new dot. Dot means that we don't want to create another folder. We want the current folder in which the API is. We want to add the new files which will be coming by calling Rails new command. Okay, and then as I am creating Rails API, I am saying double dash API and double dash force to forcefully in executing that. And for Docker, we also need a new thing, is that dependencies. Many gems create their own dependency in the container, and containers gets heavy. So for that, we have to add this double dash no depths, no dependencies. Okay, and also database is equal to Postgres SQL. Okay, because we will be using Postgres SQL. So I run this command. It will now start running this, and I have a command for API, and there is no API right now in my Docker container. It will first try to create it, and after created, it will run this raise new command in the container. Okay, so yeah, you see it is currently in the Docker file, line number 9, bundle install. Okay, out of 11 lines. Okay, so it is running bundle install, and after that it will copy everything to us. Any question until now? So after this command, you will see we have an initialized repo of Docker Compose. And this is one time task. You have created it. After that, if you want to share your project with anyone, even if he doesn't have any Ruby installed or Postgres installed, he does only have to install Docker, and he can run your project in his own local system. Yeah, so You see, all the files are now like when we run Raise new, the new files come here. We have all the new Raise project as we expected. Okay, and everything is ready for us to work on now. So this is how it's just one command you can see in here that we have to run this command after these 4 to 5 files adding. And even if you see the gem file, you would see that now when we only added 2 lines, but we have now like a normal Rails project initialized. Okay. So now when we create a new project, Rails project, what we have to do, we have to do Rails db create. Okay. But there is a little bit that because db is not in our local, so we have to change a bit in database.yaml. Okay, so here we have to add in default. So if we add the config in default, then it will be for all the environments. So here the most important line is the host, which is db. db name is from this service name. Okay, so that host means that it will not be looking in our local, it will be looking in the Docker container. Okay, and the Docker Postgres says that Postgres is the default user of the Postgres image that we installed. Okay, and the password will be empty because we said that we have trust with the Postgres because it's a local environment. So now we can create the Rails DB create, but it is the initialized one. So what I want to do is I want to first run docker compose up dash d double dash build. Okay, it will create again from the start, but this time it will uh, it will be one way, not the other way around. Right now it was another way around because we got the files from the container and copied them to our local machine, our local folder. Now we want that our local folder is updated, update your container machine. Okay, so now it is updating and will build everything, and now we can create RaisDB create after that. Uh, Encrypted Malik saying, are there Raise log file generated inside container? How can we keep it in the persistent storage? Okay, mostly the thing is that the logs are will be coming in our local environment as well, because we are saying that we will have the full access to the DB. Okay, we have the full access to the file system of API that is our working directly. So it will be updating the development logs in our local code in the logs folder we have. Okay, so now it's running. What we will do is we want to run Rails DB create. Okay, but we want to run in Docker. So what we have to add is Docker compose run API. So we want to run in API Rails DB create. Okay, so it will create the 2 files with the database API development and the test API test. Okay, so we have now API development and API test. Okay, and then if we want to migrate, every command we want to do during an Rails development, we can do with Docker compose run API and like if we want to do migrate. Okay, if you have added a gem in your gem file, okay, then now our whole this folder is attached to the work dir in work directory in our Docker container. So everything we do here will be matched with the Docker container as well. Okay, and as we have are running foreman, and so if I want to do local host for 3000, yeah, we are on Rails and it is running. Okay, and if you want to see the logs, so Docker compose logs dash f and API. Okay, F means follow the logs. So yeah, it is now continuously on, and we can see all the logs here. Okay, and if you want easy tasks, then there is a Docker, and we can open dashboard. API database, API development. Okay. Uh, no, it is localhost because it is in our local. Okay, yeah, we can access the postries from our Postico environment or whatever we can do. So yeah, this is the so now we have created the Rails project, and now we can share it, and just adding one command up dash d double dash build, the new person can start working on it. So it is quite fast for the development now, and you don't have to install many variants of Ruby with environment and other stuff. So this is so. Any questions?
Right. So we don't seem to have any further questions as of now, but I really did want to thank you so much for a really in-depth session. It was definitely very informative and very educational. I'm sure that a lot of the viewers were, they kind of like got an idea of Dockers and everything. So I'm sure it was, I mean, personally, I really liked it. So, and a major shout out to Encrypted Malik, Mohsin Jamshed, Zia Kamar, and Nitin for asking and all of these questions and making the whole session very engaging.
And really tough questions.
We actually do have more questions. So let me.
Yeah.
We have more questions from Encrypted Malik. Let me check. Yeah. So he is asking, in case the DB container crashes, how will it recover? I'm assuming it can't be done.
Yeah, you see, mostly the development in development, we uh, we can't have the container to be precise, but yeah, we can have a backup of the container whenever we want. Like we used to get the screenshot of the PostgreSQL, we can have that backup of the DB whenever we want. But yeah, there is a chance of crashing, but yeah, it is better than to have everything and using all the RAM, and then even Windows you have to leave Windows. Definitely, people love Windows, but they have to leave it because they can't work on it. So there are some profits and there are some losses. You have to manage that.
Right, and Encrypted Malik is also saying, looking forward to see you with Kubernetes on Rails. Now that will definitely be a very interesting topic for sure. We'll definitely have you again. So Mohsen is
Yeah,
also
definitely.
asking another question. How is the Docker microservice architecture managed over GitHub and deployment servers?
You see, Mohsin, what is his name? Mohsin. Mohsin, the thing is, the services are not installed on the GitHub. We are just sharing two files, Docker Compose, .yaml, and Docker file. These are just simple text files. Okay. What Docker Hubs does is that it is images and layers of images. They are not installing full-blown Linux into your local systems. Okay, they are installing the minimized version. And even if you want to use Linux, you can have Alpine Linux, which is like 5 MB of the whole operating system. So Docker Hub does that is it uses the common libraries of the Linux. And then if you want Ruby image, then it would add just the code of Ruby over the Linux operating system. If you want Redis, then it will install the library over that same container. Okay, so at most, if you are running one project, you are running one Linux instance, not many instances. If you are adding many services, that doesn't mean that you are running many instances. You are running the same Linux instance with many libraries over one another. Like is simply if you are using this machine of yours, your local machine, if you install Ruby, that doesn't mean you are installing a new operating system. You are just installing that library over that same operating system. So it is easy to manage because when we install the Docker, we have a Linux libraries ready, and then we just pull the image of the libraries and the settings from the Docker Hub. I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you for a very detailed answer, Salman. We really
Mhm.
appreciate it. I'm sure you majority of Mohsen's queries would have been answered. If not, Mohsen, do let us know in the comments section. One of the things I actually wanted to ask the audience was with regards to our webinar, what do you guys prefer more? Like, do you guys prefer having the questions answered at the end of the session or during the Q&A like we did today? So do let us know. Sulman, again, thank you very much. Let's wait for a couple of more minutes. Let's see if anybody else has more questions. If
Sure,
not,
sure,
and then we will conclude the webinar. But
sure.
other than that, it was definitely a very amazing session. And again, like I said, it was very nice to have you. We really do honestly appreciate, very senior developers, much like yourself, obviously, that you guys kind of like take out the time to contribute to the Ruby community. Honestly, all of these sessions that we do are all because of you guys. So major thank you to you.
No problem, no problem.
Right. So I don't think we don't have any more questions. So let's just conclude the webinar. Thank you, Salman. It was an amazing session. I hope to have you again for Kubernetes with Rails, definitely. If not, maybe something else.
Sure, sure, inshallah. Yeah,
Yes, inshallah, inshallah. So thank you, Salman, and thank you everyone
thank
who
you.
joined in the live stream. It was really nice to have you. Make sure to stay updated. We do actually have another webinar coming up, so make sure that you do follow us on social media and see who is going to be joining us next, what date, what time, and who is going to be there. So it's going to be a great session. Thank you, Salman. Thank you, everyone, and hope everyone has a very good weekend. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.